who's the pathologist, right? And when we saw his name, there's a pathologist called Heath. And now Heath, he had been reported to the GMC more times than any MD, GP ever, right? Heath was always given high profile celebrity cases to do the autopsies on. Stuart Lubbock for one, the Barrymore murder, the Moors murders. I can list after list. The bloke was an absolute monumental wrong'un. Yet he was constantly the one that would be called on, Heath.
Yeah.
You know, all the time. There was something like 25 investigations for wrong diagnosis of death put against him. And he was protected and covered up all right up to his death. You know, absolute wrong-un. I think Michael Heath, his name was.
Yeah.
GP.
It's something we constantly see throughout this series, John, is people who mishandle things and people who clearly should not be in the job they're in, getting promoted and continuing on their career of mishandling.
Well, we've seen it with SIOs, senior investigating officers, of these high-profile, questionable cases, and we saw it with Leslie Molseed, and the SIO screwed that up, went on to run and destroy the Ripper inquiry.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. That was mind-blowing, John.
Yeah.
And you've seen the level of those cases.
Yeah,
and what I mean? It's not like dropping the ball. We're talking about dropping the hand grenade. You know.
Now, if I'm to lose my reputation now, I would say that all these people may be part of a big red horned deity worshipping group.
Do you think?
You know?
I mean, do you think, John? I mean, other than the, what would effectively be hundreds of thousands of pages of evidence and testimony, what brings you to that conclusion? You know.
I know,
it's wild.
It's bizarre, but I mean, this is where years ago wouldn't have entertained it. However, look, you've only got to watch Roman Polanski's film Rosemary's Baby, and you see this great and the good all get together, heads of the industry, head doctors, head this, all clumping together to help out, and of course that's what they're in. They're in this horned god worshipping club. From all corners. Now, look, you definitely get it with Freemasonry, right? I saw it in the police, right? And funny enough, I was discussing it with this brave copper who's speaking out. And she said to me, John, how many of that lot we work with, how many of them were in the Masons? And we laughed. I said, yeah, I never really fully understood it. She said they just all go missing one afternoon, wouldn't they? And I said, yeah. She said loads of them in the CID mainly. They were all in it. And if asked, has it any influence on police? I'll go, oh, of course, none whatsoever. But so I'll give you an example. So Paul Condon, Paul Condon, the former now a lord, the former commissioner of police circa 1990, turned around and said, I think in the sort of backlash of the Stephen Lawrence death and the fact that the case was deliberately mucked around with by Freemason detectives, he said, right, we've got to do something about this hidden hand, this oath within an oath that operates in the confines of Scotland Yard. So he brought out an edict that all officers in the Metropolitan Police had to fill out a form, and they had to state whether or not they were a Freemason, right? Anyway, I was on a team, and the guy who was like the daddy of the team, a bit like the daddy of a prison, He was a bit like the daddy of the team, an old boy, but he was he was quite a character and an obvious Freemason. He come round as soon as we got issued the forms. He went, "Yeah, give me your forms. I'll fill them out for you. Don't worry about that. I'll deal with this." And collated all the forms, never to be seen again. never to be seen again, you know. So it was just, that was probably his brief. Get them, stop it, crazy dog. That was his brief, you know. So it has a massive influence on the police. So if we look at that as a microcosm of the bigger, you know, society, then it's a possibility. It's a possibility, but the one thing with it, they'll always deny it if asked. So the truth of whether or not Lucy Letby and cohorts were involved in a child murdering cult to satisfy their God will never come out. It'll always be the work of fiction or the confines of a group of conspiracy theorists. You'll never ever get anyone to speak out. You're getting it now with a lot of these Mexican mafia cartels, and because they are worshipping demonic figures in the form of Santeria in order to get protection, and a few of them have gone through redemption, have gone to God, and they've actually openly said, yeah, we worship this darkness and we do human sacrifices and we do all this, you know, to make money. The most notable case was in the 90s in Rio de Janeiro, and the police in central Rio had a hit squad, and they go out in these blacked out vans, tough, elite paramilitary soldiers, and they would round up the street kids in the favelas because they were affecting tourism and income and real estate, because these kids were just causing a nightmare, causing just grief, going around just smashing people up and robbing and shooting. So they went round collecting these kids up and killed them, and the crime rate just went. It just went overnight, and it worked, but it was murder. So the guy who instigated it, he one moment had a point of redemption, and he turned around and he confessed, and he said, look, I'm now under the witness of God, and under my command we were going out and killing these young children, and I can't live with myself. You need to know. But officially they never, no one would have known, but until he said that. So all you can ever hope for is that someone does turn around and speak the truth.
Yeah, 100%.
And tell you exactly what goes on. I mean, you've got all these old gangsters doing all these podcasts, and I don't like them. And I'm going to make it clear, I don't like it. I've stabbed him and I knocked his teeth out and all this. I don't like it, right? But it's an insight into a crappy world, and it's entertainment for a lot of people. However, you get some who, like Chris Lambriano, like Ez Catel, like Stephen French, hard men, not men that would kill you, blink of an eye if you were, you was in their way back in the day, have gone to God, turned their lives around, gone through full redemption, the pain of searching into their inner self, and generally are sorry for what they've done. And now they talk about it, but they talk about it in a way to guide people away from it, to warn society of the pitfalls of it, the damage to the family, the damage to the children, to society, to everyone.
Yeah.
With not one ounce of glamour in it. Now, I listen to them all day long. They've got a powerful message to say. And I fully endorse these people. And this is what we have now. I've got a theory about Rule 43 in prison, the segregation unit.
Okay.
And so people are put in there away from general population. They say it's for safety of themselves and for staff, because staff, could be put on offer protecting these people. But the other thing is, if you was like part of Sidney Cook's gang, and then you're put in a prison, and if you're put in segregation with another PDF file, and you tell about the awful things you do with kids, you're just going to add fuel to the fire. It's probably going to be a masturbatory tool for your cellmate. But if you put them in general population with people who have suffered as a result of them, you know, they're going to get killed, right? But they might then tell them, look, the people I were with were high up. It wasn't just me and Cook and that. We were taking kids to politicians. There was a commissioner of Scotland Yard that was on the payroll. That was this, that was that. You know, they'll tell their cellmate. That cellmate will tell his mates. Tell everyone. And it's a powerful bit of information to hold. You know, that the Cray twins were on a trial for bribery and corruption and other nonsense. And they used similar information like that against the intelligence services to walk free from the trial. And that's happened many times, right? Because that information can destroy the country. So therefore, there's a need to make that what they call ex parte, right? Sensitive, non-disclosable ex parte material. So I think that sometimes when they put these people in Rule 43, it's because it also contains that information. The system can monitor these people and make sure they don't leak anything. You know, because these, at the end of the day, are the F-wits that get caught. The real ones don't get caught.
Yeah.
And maybe Letby's one of them. Maybe she's a bit of low-hanging fruit. You know? I don't know. And do you know what? I don't think we'll ever know with her. But let's follow the work of David Davis, the MP, because he seems to have a bit of a grip on this. And they're saying that it was only based on anecdotal and statistical analysis, the evidence, and nothing else. She had no professionals backing her up. None. None of the evidence was refuted or contra-argued by a like-minded professional. None. Her defence team offered up hardly any proper attack, which is very odd. Very odd. So I don't know. It's I think it stinks. I think there's something very smelly about it.
Well, here's the thing as well, right? If we're talking in Lucy Letby's case, if we're talking really opening our minds, okay, we know how sought after children, babies, and things like this are in that dark realm, okay? And could there be a bigger story here? I don't know. I want to continue with this article, John, but let's see if there's anything else that Lucy confesses to. And then once we've done that, I need to ask you about paperwork like that being found in cases. So just bear with me as we go through this. One expert has dismissed Letby's notes as meaningless, as she and had no value as evidence, particularly if they'd been written as part of counselling. Now, I kind of happen to agree, right? But at the same time, why were they at her house if it was counselling? If you see what I mean.
But that's the prosecutor doing the defence work. I can understand it if her defence team had come out with that. Okay. I could. But I agree as well, because, you know, like scenario I gave earlier, you know.
Well, it's just an interesting one, John. It's an interesting one because in this could be a case where if we all feel it's a bit icky that someone's had counseling, which is, let's be honest, a medical situation, right? You could almost be guided to write something, right? You could almost be told that it's okay to exaggerate, and if you need to write this down to justify your guilt, write down what you feel guilty about, feel the guilt or something. It's interesting. Let me continue on with this while we ponder on that.
I'm with you.
David Wilson, a professor of criminology at Birmingham City University, told The Guardian many people will say things when they are under stress and are feeling bereft that seem to imply one thing but mean nothing at all, other than reflecting the underlying stress. Very interesting. I always thought Letby's notes were meaningless as evidence. If they were written as part of a therapy, you can underline that point 3 times and then write it in bold and capital letters. Richard Corrin, the chair of the Forensic Psychiatry Society, added, doodling, journaling is a way of taking control of your thoughts. I don't think it relates to a confession of any kind. He added that Letby's response in the notes in court was robust and seems right. She wrote down how she was being made to feel. Okay, interesting. The public inquiry into Letby's case is set to begin receiving evidence next week amid the backdrop of mounting questions over the safety of the nurse's conviction. Sources told The Guardian ahead of the occupational health and well-being at the hospital where Letby worked, Catherine de Begur had encouraged her to write down her feelings to cope with the extreme stress. Letby Chester's GP also told her to write down thoughts as she was struggling to process, sources said. Letby received several counselling sessions from Dr. Beguer as part of the support arranged by the hospital, and her notes repeatedly refer to Mrs. de Beguer. So her notes, as in Letby's, the one she wrote. Letby was aware of the senior consultants were speaking openly about there being a serial killer at the hospital, and that people were starting to notice that she was on shift for many of the deaths. Where can you just for a start, could you imagine at any point actual whispers of a serial killer?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is where I would say put the brakes on now, because at the moment anyone suspects that, why are the police not called in? That at that point the police should be called in. You know, if you even think, you know, that because
also why if somebody was saying, oh, there's a serial killer about, why would you then get counselling? Because people think it's you.
The place would be shut down, and the police would be called. I think there was something also they did try with the police, but the police were a bit
John, wait. So, we think there's a serial killer in the police force that you work in, John. We think it's you, John, right? You've overheard this, so now you're getting counselling at the hospital. Can someone make that make sense to me?
Yeah, no, I know it's odd, isn't it? I mean, that's right. It's not look, the petty cash or the Christmas club money's gone missing. We think it might be you. I mean, the fact of the matter is multiple. I think it was something like 50 times the national average of children were dying in this hospital. They had a horrifically high spike in deaths over 3 years. So that the police should have been called. That should have been a GMC referral, policing. But they didn't do that. They didn't do that.
As well, just while we're watching, right? Can everyone just make sure you like and share? I would like you all to take a minute to like and share. Also, at no point are John and I saying that we think she did or didn't do this. At no point are we taking anything away from these poor children who've died.
No.
We are two individuals reacting to something live that we're reading that is fairly new updates on this case. And John, that little weird conundrum of the rumors circulating and her getting counseling. It's a great narrative if you were wanting to create evidence against someone.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, building a profile against them, and and especially if she's then encouraged to put her thoughts down about death.
Yeah, not even that. Let's say I'm the senior officer and I'm like, hey, John, listen, these rumors are circulating that you're a serial killer. We've set you up with a doctor, though, if you want to go and speak to her. Don't worry that she's going to advise you to write down things like, a confession.
Well, not only that, we're not saying it's you, but we actually think it is you.
Yeah.
But don't worry about it.
Yeah, you don't worry about it. Go and speak to this lady and definitely write down what she said.
I mean, it's a bit like a wife beater, isn't it? Hits his wife. Look what you made me do. You made me do it. They call it gaslighting, don't they?
Let's get the gaslighting.
It's the ultimate in gaslighting, isn't it? I wouldn't have done it if you hadn't have.
On a serious note, Lucy Letby, in this made-up scenario that we're discussing here, she would probably have absolutely went into panic mode if your senior is advising you to go and get counselling because everyone thinks you're a serial killer.
Well, let me tell you something. When I was in that meeting, when I was accosted by a senior manager who threatened me with the loss of everything if I spoke out, and he basically flipped it round that I was in the wrong. what I'd done was wrong. And he turned around and said something to me. It wasn't you, right? Because one girl had come forward 15 years ago, got told to F off, and then 15 years later, she sees me, knows what I'm doing, and makes this fantastic statement about who's pimping her out. And the police's response was, no, it was the professionalism of my officers 15 years ago that sowed a seed that has now grown, and she's now confident to speak out, regardless that she's speaking out to you, and that what you're doing is absolutely incompetence. So instead of it was my interpersonal skills, my compassion, my tradecraft, my dogged tenacity to expose it, that never got this woman to speak. It was the professionalism of his officers 15 years ago when they told her to F off. That has actually made her speak. And that was his mindset. Now, they pull it on you and you sit there and actually think, there might be something in that twisted, perverted, effed up logic. And that's what happens when you go in panic mode. Now, I can understand if she's innocent, that she is going into this panic